Hey everyone, welcome to my behind the scenes video on Guardian's Call, a game that I made alongside Raymond Cripps. In this video, we'll be discussing the creation of the game, going over the design, development, and lessons that I've learnt during its creation. I hope you enjoy the video. Guardian's Call was originally a multiplayer game. Ray and I decided it would include 2 players engaged in ranged combat. You'd throw a disc-like weapon at your opponent and have to summon it back to you. A hit of the weapon would take out your opponent and also parts of the environment, so you'd have destruction physics, making the fight more dynamic, changing the environment as you battle. This idea did not get very far. While we had a rough idea of what we wanted to create, we hadn't defined an experience, just a set of mechanics. The original idea was not enough to inspire us in the game's development, and as the month was moving along, I made very limited progress on the game. Having a character with a fun moveset is often inspiring for Ray and I, so I decided to find a character animation set we could focus the character around. That's when I found an Archer animation set on the Epic Games marketplace. It didn't take long to set up an Archer animation set and have a character running around in third person, jumping, and firing arrows. During this time, I decided to live stream the development for extra motivation, which turned out to be a really great experience. After that live stream, I knew the character was fun, but we did not have a direction to take the game in. I thought a boss battle game would work well, especially with the time left. One of my inspirations for this was the game Titan Souls. Looking at the footage of the game, I like the simplicity of exploring an environment and then getting into a boss fight. Whenever I feel lost during a creative project, gathering inspiration is a really important step. It allows you to flood your mind with new ideas, and eventually your mind will form an idea that you have to go with. Now that I had an idea of this boss style fighting game, the design and challenge was set. Create a boss battle game using Unreal Engine 4 in around 2 weeks. With a clear vision for the game, I began development. With Game a Month, you don't have a lot of time to create original assets, especially as Game a Month is something Ray and I work on during our free time. To solve this problem, I turned to the Unreal Marketplace. For those who don't know what this is, it's a place where you can get free or paid assets to use in your game projects. Ray covers the character, so I needed to find an environment and enemies that all fit together. Luckily, the Infinity Blade assets exist, and this covers both the enemies and the environment. My first priority was to create the boss. I held a vote on the livestream, and we decided to go for the bear. The bear provided the walking animation and 2 attack animations we could use. One for swiping at the player, and one where the bear smashes the ground, causing rocks to launch up at the player, kind of like earthbending in the Avatar series. With the bear implemented, the game felt empty. Sure, you could battle the boss, but I didn't want to just develop a small boss battle game. I wanted to create an experience. This is where I got the idea to include cutscenes and dialogue to help set up a small world for the player to enjoy. At this point, time was low, but once I set my mind to something, I have to get it done, and sometimes this is a great thing, but as you can imagine, it has its downsides. I decided that the level needed to be expanded for the player to explore, and on top of that, I wanted a few enemy encounters before the main boss. If I have an idea that will enhance the experience, I'll always strive to get it in the game. Priority 1 was making the environment bigger, so I added to the stage and included some new details. One of them was this big door with vines hanging from it. I decided to make this a central story point, as you see it from the start of the game. Maybe something is behind it, and that could be enough motivation for the player to get to the boss. I know it's simple, but with a few days left, you have to work within your limitations. With the door added, I wanted an obstacle between you and the boss. As mentioned before, these obstacles are the golems. I set up their blueprints, AI logic, and began to test them. I was very happy with the experience so far. Having a challenge before the boss, even if they were simple, still added to the overall game experience. With the boss, extended level, and golem enemies, everything was nearly done, except for the cutscenes. I knew once I added these, the game would have a clear start and end. I started by setting up the sequence of camera shots. This is the Unreal Engine system for creating cutscenes. I also created a simple dialogue system so that whatever lies behind the door could deliver lines to the player. The experience was nearly complete, but one thing was still missing. Well, multiple things. Music, sound effects, and visual effects. I created a trigger system for music, allowing me to play different sound files depending on the situation in-game. I decided that the game needed 4 distinct soundtracks: the main menu, game start with the cinematic, combat music with the golems, and a boss battle theme for the final encounter. Once the music was added in, it made the game feel epic, and all of this music came from the Unreal Marketplace. Next thing I added in were the sound effects. I used animation montage notifiers to add most of the sound effects. This system is amazing and made my life very easy. The last layer of polish were the visual effects. This involves dust particles, enemy attacks, and player abilities. With the core game experience and these 3 levels of polish, Ray and I had a game experience we were very proud of, and that's the game you can go onto itch.io and play right now. We pushed ourselves, and I feel like we leveled up from this experience. Game a Month isn't very easy to create. It's often a struggle, and the good thing is when you overcome a struggle, you can grow, and each Game a Month teaches me many new lessons. Here are some of the most important lessons that I learnt from Guardian's Call. During the starting phases, you'll often prototype, and this is a good process. Prototyping a new game idea is often chaotic. There is no formula for coming up new ideas. You have to get inspired and try things. However, with that thought, for the Game a Month, I want to define a clear vision for prototyping. You'll of course never have everything figured out, but having a vision that you can refine makes a big difference. If Ray and I knew we wanted a Titan Souls or Dark Souls style experience earlier on, we could have used that as inspiration to test ideas more rapidly and lock down a set of mechanics quicker. For the last 3 months, I haven't had a clear inspiration for each game until towards the end, and as you've seen, it's always a crazy rush to get the game completed. Once you get past the prototype phase, you can have processes in place for production. For the last 3 games a month, we haven't had a proper process in place. I decided to create a roadmap for future Game a Month projects. It won't always work out this smoothly, but having a plan that we can attempt to stick to will help us know our objective during each week of the month. It also feels great to know what stage you're working towards during the month, and I believe this will bring less chaos to the production phase. It's easy to get lazy or forgetful with project management once a project is moving at a fast pace. However, I'm most productive when I've got my tasks set up for the week and I work daily to complete each task. Towards the end of Guardian's Call, I was far more productive as I made a point to write down every task required in Trello. I ended up getting so much done as I clearly knew what I had to achieve each day. Without these tasks defined, I wouldn't have been able to finish the project on time with the amount of features and polish we got into the game. And that's how we created Guardian's Call. I hope you enjoyed this behind the scenes look into the game's development. I really enjoyed creating this video, and I hope it provided some value to you. This game is available to play on itch.io. Check the description for a link to the game. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I'll see you all in the next one.